Materials for your twig boats will be twigs from the ground, string, construction paper, rope, and scissors. The twigs you use or find will be similar to this size. I'm going to start by taking one of my strings and one of my twigs and tying a knot around one end of the twig. We're going to tie a knot around the twig as tight as we can so that the string doesn't slide or come off. And then we're going to take our second string and do the same thing to the other end of the twig. Pulling the two strings down and grabbing another twig, we can begin building our boat. So to start, we're going to wrap our string around the new twig, bring it under and over the previous twig, and bring it back under the new twig. And I can show you again. Bring it under and over the new twig, then bring it back under and over the previous twig, to back under the new twig. And then we can continue adding our twigs just like this the whole way down. As I kept going, sometimes the string would get caught on some of the rough edges of the twigs. I would keep wrapping and wrapping as best as I could. We're going to keep adding twigs until we are happy with how wide we want our twig boat to be. And I can show you again how I am attaching the twigs to the twig boat by going over and under to going back over and back under. So we are going over backwards to under backwards, and then over forwards to under forward. Once you've reached the end of your twig boat and you're happy with how wide it's going to be, our next step is going to be wrapping the end of the string around the final twig one time. And then we're going to take another twig that's a little smaller and skinnier than the rest of the twigs. And these are going to be the stabilizers and what's really going to hold your boat together. We are continuing to use the same string to go over the new twig and in between the twigs to go underneath. And then we are going back under one of the twigs that goes across to over our stabilizer twig. And we're going to keep doing it this way until we reach the very end of our boat by going over the stabilizer twig to in between the old twigs, and then back under to going over the stabilizer twig and in between to go back under and back over. After you've reached the end of your stabilizer twig, we are going to take the string and wrap it around a few times, and then we are going to add a secure knot so that this side of your boat doesn't come apart. We can snip the extra string off and begin the same thing on the other side. done the same way by going over the stabilizer twig, underneath, and then over and in between the twigs. So we're going under and then over and in between to going back under and back over. And we can keep doing it that way until we've reached the very end of our stabilizer twig. And once we've reached the end, I'm going to wrap it around to secure it. And then we can tie another secure knot so that this side of our twig boat doesn't come apart either. And then we can snip off the excess string. We're going to need one longer twig that is going to act as the mast of our twig boat. And then I'm going to take my construction paper and fold one corner just like this so that I can take my scissors and create a small cut and then create a small cross or a small X with my scissors. I'm going to do it on opposite sides of the construction paper so that I can attach the sail vertically to my mast. Now that I've made my 2 incisions and 2 cuts in the sail, it is ready to slide onto the mast. Should go on just like this. And then you have yourself a twig boat and it is ready to be tested in some water. Once we add our boat to the water and the wind blows, the sail here that we added is going to really help push the boat across the water. How far will your twig boat go? And this is where you can get your rope out or your cord, and I'm going to show you 3 different knots that you can learn. The first knot I'll show you will be the overhand knot. You will take one end of the string and bring it over the other end of the string. And the string that goes underneath will go over and underneath again to get a knot that looks like this, your overhand knot. Some of these knots might be a little tricky, but if you practice, you'll get them in no time. Our next knot is called the figure 8 knot. Maybe you can figure out why it's called that. We have 2 ends of our string. One end is going to come to one side like this, while the other end is going to take a curve and cross over the string so that your string kind of looks like a fish. The end that has gone over the other end of the string will now go underneath, just like this. That same end is then going to go over into the loop and then come out underneath. Over, in, and under. Then we can pull on our cord, and then maybe you can tell why this knot is called the figure 8 knot. It's because when this knot is tied, it looks like the number 8, a figure 8. Our final knot is going to be needing 2 ropes, and it is called the granny knot. First, we're going to take one of our strings and sit it in a curve like this. Then with your other string, it is going to go over and underneath the orange string. Then this end of the rope here is then going to go under the loop, under the curve of the orange string. And this end of the yellow string is then going to go underneath and through the loop. Then, as you tug on the string, you can start to see your granny knot. Practicing these knots can really help with your hand-eye coordination and your fine motor skills. And maybe you can think of more knots or find more knots to learn as well. I hope you all enjoyed learning these new knots and creating a twig boat. Thanks for watching, everyone. Bye, my pea.